Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for week 83 of the new Build Your Stash and Craft. So today we picked up some things that we can use in our crafting, some different tools, and we picked up some stuff that we are going to make a brush cleaner with. Now you don't have to have a brush cleaner, but they do come in handy and they're quite expensive at the craft stores. So we are going to use this makeup brush holder to hold our paintbrushes. So we are going to use this container as our water holder and our brush cleaner. And what we're going to do, because this is too big, is I have decided that I'm going to cut this here and here. So the center portion will fit here over top of the water. These outside edges can fit on the side or the back, either way. And, we can use those to hold other tools. So I'm wondering, I'm not 100% sure how well my scissors will work. If my scissors will not work, I can use my X-Acto knife, but I'm just going to come in here, just try and cut right straight. That worked just fine. I'm going to come over here. I kind of marked it on the back, so I want to make sure I'm cutting where I had planned. Come over here and cut right there. Okay, so we're going to set those two pieces aside for a minute. So now we have this, and that will suction nicely right to there. So that works well. Okay, now, if you don't like how far it sticks out, you could always cut that off and use your permanent glue from the dollar store to just cut that off and glue this flat section right up against there. I kind of like that because it'll be easy to take that off and clean the inside a little bit easier than if this was glued right on. So that's another nice thing, is to be able to remove that. Now, most brush cleaners have something on the bottom. Instead of just a flat bottom that you swoosh your paintbrush in, especially if you're using something that's a little sticky, then you want something that you can kind of rub it on, but not something that's going to ruin your brush. So this is the rug stabilizer that we got to make stencils out of. But I think, take that off of there, that looks like, yep, that's going to fit in there just perfectly. So I am going to just cut this right here, and I'm going to cut off, I'll do this one side of those little bits. See how well that fits down in there. I could probably cut off that other side also, so we'll do that. There, that's going to fit down in there much better. So we're just going to put that on the bottom. I'm not going to glue it in or anything like that, because I want to be able to, if I want to take it out, I want to be able to take it out. And see, that gives you a rough bottom now to clean your brush on, but not so rough that it's going to hurt your brush. So I'm going to do another one just on one side. I'm going to go right about here, I think, and cut off both sides. I'll double check because possibly that outside is a little bit wider. Not really. So just do that. And put that right down there in the bottom. I'm going to use, because that's a little deep, we'll just use our paintbrush. And there we go. So now we've got a nice little rubbery bottom to clean our brushes on. I moved it. Okay. So you want it to fit nicely on the bottom. You don't want it to pop up too much. All right, so I'm not going to put one on the other side because you get the gist of it. And So then if we have this here, we have these larger areas, but I have quite a few small paintbrushes. So what I can use for the small paintbrushes to hold them is this area here. So now here's the purpose of having the brush cleaners with the brush holder, is that once you clean your brushes, you want to be able to let them dry. How many times have you taken your brushes, you've cleaned them all off, and they're sitting in your container like that? You've got your whatever type of container that you're using to clean it, glass jar, cottage cheese container, whatever, and you've got it full of water, some water, and you just leave your brushes in there after you've cleaned them. Two things happen. All of the soot that gets down to the bottom gets all stuck all over your brush. Excuse me, all over your brushes. And you take your brushes out and they're all kind of curled up like this because they've been sitting on the bottom. You don't want that to happen. So what you want to do is be able to clean them and let them dry. And so you can just push them in here in these areas, just like that, above the water, so that they're not sitting in the water at all, and they can now dry. If you are using them still and you want to keep them damp, then you hang them down far enough that they're in the water, but they're not touching the gunk on the bottom of your container. And then if you want them to, you have an area that I leave open that you can have them dry on the other side. Now this is going to go through and it's going to fall, because this brush is not big enough, but we do have these other areas here. We also have this that will hold larger items, so we can just stick that right on that side. And now that right there would hold our large brush. So if you wanted, you could put this one on the inside. If you're using your larger brushes, you could have this one on the inside to hold your larger brush. And all you'd have to do is just move this one down a bit. And you're going to have to trim your suction cup a little bit to possibly fit there. Of course, if you break that, that's not going to work, because if you can't really, you don't want to break the suction. But that sits on top nicely anyways. So we could take this one and very possibly glue it on there. So, but this one will not fit in any of our small ones. So we really do want this one here. So I'm just trying to think where I would want to put it. And very possibly I would just, for now, I'll have it here. But I can put it somewhere on the inside. This one is not actually suctioning real well anyways. Yes, it is. Possibly because of the fact that it doesn't touch the whole thing. But I'll take this out. Normally I have these things all figured out ahead of time, but I didn't need more than one. And so I really didn't want to make an extra one. All right, I'm going to put this below the edge of this wall. That way I can still take it out. I don't want to glue it in. I could glue it right up along this edge, but I really don't want to glue them. And then push that one in there like that. So there we go. Now our large one, after we have cleaned our large brush, we can put it right in there and hold it above the water level, because you only need your water to be in here about a ½ inch or so. You don't need a ton of water. That's the one thing we all make a mistake on, is you take your container, you fill it all the way up to here with water. You don't need that much water. You only need a little bit, just enough to clean your brush. So we will have clean water here. We'll have cleaning water in the middle. And then on this side, because now that I have put this here, I don't think I'll put any water in there at all. And so that's what we would do with that. And then we have our brushes. Now, we do have these larger areas. This one is blocked off because of that. I could always take this off because my suction cup is here, and I don't really need those there, but I might find that I use them for something. See, that one would fit. Sorry. Hopefully this whole thing wasn't out of frame. That would fit in there. So, then you can also take these larger ones and put them on the outside to hold larger tools. And so we could take this tool, which is a little bigger than the container there, but because it's got the spatulas on the end, it will stay in there. We have the sponge brush. And I think I probably would put this one over here to hold it off the bottom because I don't want it touching the ground. And the little sponge brush will fit right there. So, and yes, I'm being a little bit clumsy, but these really do work well. And like I said, if necessity dictates, this can always be glued right on the back. And that might be something that I will do after I've used it a couple of times, because I'm kind of finding I think I don't necessarily care for that. I think I would prefer to have it on the back, and it won't be that hard to clean. So I'm going to take this off. I'm going to do that right now. So I'm going to cut off the suction cup because the suction cup was coming up off the edge, it just wasn't sticking. So long as the whole suction cup is on the plastic, it is sticking very well. Now you could always use some other type of container that's possibly a little taller. So I'm going to put this one on here like that. And I think I'm going to take this one out. See, now that thing is stuck. There we go. And maybe because I'm going to glue it now, maybe I will glue it right here where the walls are underneath the holders. And that way, I'm going to cut that off. Try and make it a little bit flatter here. Always watch your hands whenever you're using an X-Acto knife or any type of sharp knife. That way, and then I'm going to come in from this way. I think that will be a little bit easier. When you get right to that middle section, it doesn't want to finish cutting. It's coming from each side, just so that you don't wind up having that knife jump around and cut yourself. There we go. Well, this is just our gel super glue from the Dollar Tree, and it works really well. You can use E6000 or whatever you have. This works about like that. And again, I wanted to put it so that my holders were right above the walls. And there. Now that will take a while to hold. I will leave it sit for at least 24 hours. I'm going to take one of my clips and I'll clip that on there also, just to hold it in that spot. But that is going to work. As far as I'm concerned, that's going to work really well. And you've got your cleaners in the bottom. You can always lift them out to really wash that out and then slide them back in again. And then we have, because we have the larger brush, and we're going to want to do that too, I don't know that I want to permanently attach that in there. So I think that I may wind up putting it down underneath after I've cleaned everything each time just put this one back right there. The suction cup's going to hold it. It's tight. That's going to hold it. And that is going to make it so that I can keep my larger brush in there, held above the water. I was thinking about cutting this off, and I think I will, because I'll never be able to use the other portion because it's under there and that's glued in. So I think I'm going to cut it here to make it easier to deal with. And that's the thing, whenever you're doing something like this, you just have to kind of play around with it. There, now to me, that's going to work much better. And I could even move it back a little bit if I wanted to. Put that suction cup right up against the back wall. And it has to be under here because we need the whole suction cup up here. Oh, and I just said put the suction cup on the back wall. You know what? We possibly could do that. And so this is the way that you decide how to make things that you want to replace what you could purchase at the store. Take some of this off. And you don't want to spend that money for it. Now, is this going to be as good as the other? It's going to work as well. May not be as pretty. It may not hold as many brushes, but depending on how many brushes you actually use, if you need one that's going to hold, you know, 20 to 50 brushes, that's not going to fit in there. Then you would need to make a bigger one or to purchase a larger one. But if you're not going to use something that, if you're not going to hold 50 brushes, you don't need one that's going to hold 50 brushes. And there we go. Now we can clean our brush in there and then just put it right in there. And again, we have enough room for 3 larger brushes. We have enough room for 3 smaller brushes. And there's actually even room to put one in this way when you're just having them dry or just sit around. So, without having your bristles stuck to the bottom. So there we go. Clean this off. Stick it to the side. Oh, that's upside down. I want it to be this way. And actually stick it on there. So today's video is very kind of very klutzy, but you know, we all have those days. So there we go. That is there. Oh, and we were going to put this one on the second cue right there, and then we still even have another holder for something different. We could even, if we're not using, I very rarely use my large paintbrush, so the large paintbrush could also go out there. So those could be sitting out there. Now we have our little brush holder. And it also holds a few tools here on the outside edge. Keep the suction cup. You very possibly might need that for something. We'll just stick it right there. Never know what you might use it for. Okay, now I just wanted to show you why we bought, what we're going to use the other tools for that we bought. So, we have our spatula. The spatula is for hot glue. Now, you'll see a lot of people that will be gluing things together, and as they're doing it, you know, they're trying to be really careful to not touch the hot glue, but you have to press the hot glue down when you put the next piece on it. And so you're trying to push it down, and it's hot, especially if it's fabric, it's coming through the fabric. That's what you use your spatulas for. You can press down. You can press right down exactly where that glue is at. You can press it down and hold it for a second. It is not going to burn you. Also, because the spatulas are a little bit flexible, you can fit them in kind of smaller places. You know, it doesn't have to be a great big huge flat spot. You know, you could put it right in here. So that's what you use a spatula for. And if for some reason, and I'm not so sure what that reason would be, but if you wanted to put some glue down and you wanted to press the glue, you could press it with the silicone. Maybe kind of like, maybe if you wanted to make like a wax seal and you wanted to put a penny or something in it, or you know you're having a hard time pressing on the penny, you can go ahead and do it like that. And then you have to wait for it to dry because you don't want it to string out, and then you can pull it off of there. This one is a sponge applicator. And so you could have one for each color, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and use them too. It's nice that it has a handle. And it's cheaper than some of them that you would buy at the craft store. So I had cut a stencil here. So you tap it on your sponge block or tap it on your, paint. And then just go ahead and press it into your stencil. Now, if you use it for paint, you want to make sure that you wash it right away, because you do not want, you know, most of our paints are acrylic paint, whoops, and you do not want that acrylic paint to dry on your brush. It will make it hard, and that will be the end of that. So you want to wash it well with soap and water. Now, this is coming off of here. I'm going to put it inside the bowl. I don't want to touch it, but I'm gonna, there we go, so that it doesn't. So that's kind of nice too. We don't have to tip it out onto the lid. We can leave it right down inside the bowl, and then if you just kind of press until you've kind of pressed all of it off. I'm going to switch colors without washing it because I only purchased one. Oh yeah, we can leave that to go down into the bowl. Let's see how we're doing there. And so that's what we use this for. We're going to use it for stenciling. And again, when we're done, you can wash it off. If you're using it for ink, you can give it a rinse and use it that way. If you're using it for paint, you need the soap and water. Just a little touch of your dish soap on the sponge, and then just keep squeezing it until you get all of the paint out and all of the soap out. You'll be ready to go for the next time. There we go. And it works very well. So that is what we use those for. Let's put that right back on there. And again, if this did not hold real well, if those are falling off, then you're just going to glue them on where you want them after you've kind of decided how you want to use them and what you're going to use them for. So I think, okay, and then this is a silicone. So the silicone will come right off the hot glue. And there we go. There's that little round of hot glue. If we had stuck a penny in there, we could have peeled the penny off and it would have had the indentation of the penny. But when you're trying to push the penny, you got the hot glue coming out around it, and the penny itself gets really hot and you can burn yourself. So that's what these are great for. And we can use those and just put those right on there. We can store, always store your paintbrushes up so that you don't, and this one fell down again. So maybe I'm going to leave that one on the outside. Maybe I would wish that I had not cut it, because then I would have a few more bits, but I'll have that one on the outside and I can use it over there. So there we go. Even our brush, our water brush, will fit right in there. So, and even if we don't want to have it on these, you can store them in there and store them up. I leave one dry because that's where I leave my paintbrushes that I'm not using. But the little tiny ones will grab our little paintbrushes so that they are dripping down into the water and being held so that they're not touching the bottom and getting ruined. Because that's the biggest thing. And you never want to soak your paintbrushes in water that comes above the collar here, because that gets down in there and that will totally ruin your paintbrushes. So there we go. We have some tools to play with, and we have a holder, and we have the scrubber on the bottom to clean our paintbrushes. If you're using something like Mod Podge or gesso, things that are very thick and heavy, it's nice to have that cleaner on the bottom to actually get it cleaned out of your brush while you're sitting right there, and then you can hang it up to dry, or let it hang in the water on this side after you've cleaned it over here, and let it still stay in the water if you think it still might have a little more Mod Podge on it, or, but you've gotten most of it off, but you don't want it to dry out until you maybe clean it a little bit better. Then you keep it in the one where it can actually soak in the water. So we also purchased, for this week, we purchased some Crafter's Square scissors. We're going to use these for next week. And so we need those. We need our fun foam. So if you don't have any fun foam, you can pick up some fun foam at the Dollar Tree. I believe it's 47 cents a sheet, so you can pick up a couple more sheets of fun foam. You won't need 2 sheets, but you can pick up. So we'll spend $1 on fun foam for next week, and we are going to use our Crafter's Square scissors. And I don't know how much it is, but I think we will pick up some black ink from Walmart, or I don't know if the Dollar Tree has it or not, but I think a black ink pad would be a good thing to have. So I'm going to write that down and however much that costs, but the only thing we have to buy for next week is the fun foam if you don't have any. So that gives us still quite a bit. That gives us $6.50 to pick up an ink pad. So a black permanent ink pad would be a really good thing to purchase if you can find one for the $6.50 and somewhere local where you can get your hands on it. So thank you very much. I have started work again, so things were a little bit hairy this week, but hopefully you like this, and hopefully this will help you, because I really do like the brush cleaners. And like I said, I didn't really play with it ahead of time because I didn't make an extra one, but it does have the cleaner on the bottom. We have a place to hold it in the water, a place to clean it. We have a dry area, and we even have the little bit on the outside edge. This one fell off, and I don't think I'm going to put it back on again. But 2 of these might have been good. Put one here, and then put one across the back. Might be nice also. So you have a place to hold some of your dry brushes. But for right now, these are all the brushes we have in the stash anyways, so don't really need any more room. Thank you very much for stopping by. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. And I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.